Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the professor, and this is the moment of truth. You know, whenever it comes to black people, especially black folks' power, the white media is always trying to find some angle they can use to minimize it. In this case, what we're hearing is, there has been growth in black populations, but it's in the smaller cities. The Aryan propagandists are reporting that black citizens are moving from big cities like Atlanta and Houston to smaller cities. And when they say smaller cities, the ones they name are Fort Worth, Columbus, Ohio, Jacksonville, Florida, and Charlotte, North Carolina. Now that's bizarre in and of itself. Just for the record, the populations of Fort Worth, Charlotte, Jacksonville, and Columbus, Ohio, they're all far higher than Atlanta, almost double the population of Atlanta, and their square mileage is far greater than Atlanta too. Some of those cities are up to 4 times as large as Atlanta in terms of geography. Now, the Aryan propagandists say that each of these cities have gained between 32,000 and 40,000 new black residents from 2010 to 2020, according to the 2020 census figures. Meanwhile, black residents left the nation's largest cities, New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago, by the tens of thousands. Now, this internal black migration apparently is so significant, even the politics of the nation are changing. Black professionals who have moved to places like Charlotte have helped to turn North Carolina purple. Think about that. That's how significant these shifting numbers of black people are, because when black folks move, we tend to vote Democratic, and that being the case, that's a solid number of voters who are moving in. That's a solid voting bloc that's moving around. The point that I'm trying to make is black folks have got real heft. We got real leverage if we dare to use it. We are the only voting bloc in the country who the white media and both political parties tell us that we shouldn't throw our weight around. You got one political party, the Republicans, who tell black people that, it'd be better if you niggers weren't voting altogether. And you got the Democrats who are telling black folks, don't rock the boat now. You better think about that next election. Don't make things difficult for us. Don't rock the boat now. Those are just two ways of saying the exact same thing. Just do what we tell you to do. But this is something that your Democratic friends ain't going to be telling you. The black people have helped turn the state of North Carolina purple. The Democrats, of course, are going to be stepping forward and saying, if that means that we're politically purple now, if North Carolina is in play, what that means is we need more LGBT legislation. We're going to need more abortion laws. We're going to be needing more transgender this. We're going to be needing more of these path to citizenship laws. We're going to be needing all those things because that's what's really important. And what about black people? Oh, too controversial. Can't do anything about that. Well, black folks are the ones who turned North Carolina purple for you. Well, very good. You're on the right side of history. You Negroes, you should be very glad. How very lucky we are that we got you guys. Now, as the Aryan propagandist also went on to report, according to the 2020 census, African Americans make up 14% of the U.S. population. The Census Bureau reported last week that 3.3% of the black population was undercounted in the 2020 census, a rate higher than in 2010. Now, the point in bringing this up is to stress the fact that the white media is only now admitting what black people have been saying for a very, very long time. And they're trying to make it sound like this is just some sort of one-and-done anomaly, that there were undercounts of minorities. But when they say minorities, we know they're talking about us. Because a lot of these other groups, like when you got these white Latinos, they identify themselves as white. But we understand that this undercounting is not an undercounting at all. It happens to be a matter of making sure that they can say, you Negroes are claiming that you should be having this and some of these other things. There's not even that many of you guys there. These Latinos have a lot more heft than you. We got to start listening to them. Ain't that what Biden was saying? You're going to have to start making deals with getting along with the Hispanics. There's more of them than there are you. That's a huge part of white supremacy's MO, to weaponize everything in society. Population shifts due to their own policies. We're going to make it very easy for all of these people to get in here without any sort of paperwork. Just make it easy for them to get in. When they get in here, we're going to legalize all of them. Then tell black people, look at that. You guys are not the second largest ethnic group in the country. Now you guys are third, on your way to being fourth. And isn't it interesting how they just worked out like that? But all of this undercounting of black people is because the numbers ain't dropping. If anything, they're increasing, but there's some people who don't want to have to admit that. So instead, it's a matter of we're going to just hide our heads in the sand and pretend like there's less black people than there really are because we don't want to have to actually look at those numbers. Consistently undercounting black people, yeah. And when it comes time to talk about policy, they'll then lecture us about how can you guys be making these demands? Why, there's only like 2 or 3 of you people in the whole city of Chicago, don't you know? Consistently and deliberately undercounting black people so that they can feed their anti-black narrative of, well, when it comes to policy, we got to think about the greatest good for the greatest number. Well, that is unless there's too many black people, then all of a sudden we just ain't got the money. Family, we are far stronger and far more numerous than we give ourselves credit for. This is the reason why I and others have always told you, look, all of this running around, constantly being a bunch of codependents, looking for allies, etc., you got more than enough folk already if you just look at family. Here we are with a group that happens to be very sizable, able to change the political complexion of an entire state simply because a few of us moved there. We've shown that we have political cohesion and political discipline. Problem is, too many of us have decided that we want to become basically a subsidiary of the Democratic Party, and that's not the way the power works. It's like I've always told you. We got the game all backwards when it comes to our economics and our vote. We got the game completely and thoroughly backwards. We treat our wallets the way that we ought to treat our ballot, and we treat our ballot the way we ought to be treating our wallet. When it comes to the ballot, that's supposed to be a freaking whorehouse. Anybody can get it. It's supposed to be for sale to the highest bidder. We ain't at all bashful about it. We are going to vote for whomever makes a serious pledge to our tangibles. Doesn't matter if it's Republican, Democrat, the Green Party, the Communist Party, or the man on the moon. Elections are not about loyalty. It's about getting ours. And as long as we got so many of these political parties who have made it clear that they're not making any serious pledges to our tangibles, then we're not going to be making any serious pledges to them. We're not making any at all. Now, of course, at the local level, it's not even a matter of asking. We got enough numbers at the local level, which is part of what this white media report is not stressing. We got enough heft now where we ain't got to ask anybody for anything. But that's the whole point, though. Now, I know that there's a lot of these organizations that are being funded with all of this dark money from these white donors in these white deep pockets, and their job is to fund any sort of bootlick at the local level. But the thing is, we can't be relying on that to be basically our get-out-of-jail-free card. We have shown on numerous occasions that we can muscle up on the bad guys and boss up on them. That's the reason why I want to make sure we highlight this. We already got the heft now to start bullying these white supremacists, and we should be. If ever there was a time or place where we need to be throwing our weight around, this is it. And if we've gotten the ballot all wrong, we have absolutely committed crimes against our progeny when it comes to our wallets. We treat our wallets like the whorehouse. Why, it doesn't matter if it's somebody who beats up your grandmother, slaps your children, kicks your kids around. Why, we'll have somebody tell us, like Tommy Hilfiger did, that if he knew that black people were the main ones buying his apparel, he would never start the company, and we'll still sit there and buy his clothes anyway and help him make him rich and wealthy. If there was any crime that was committed during the civil rights movement, it was the fact that you had black people arguing and fighting so that we could get into the establishments of racists and bigots who didn't want us there in the first place. Your money empowers people. It needs to be empowering black people. That's what I'm trying to say. But somewhere along the way, we picked up this attitude that black wasn't good enough. Now, sure, that was hammered into us for 500 years, but at some point, we got to start looking and going, you know what? We understand the damage that's been done, and we're going to take responsibility for repairing that damage. When you got these fools like the clowns who you'll occasionally see in the comments section, who are always the first ones to be making excuses and offering up some sort of gibberish to explain away our chronic dysfunctions and say why there's nothing we can do about it, that is a traitor who says those words. Because they dang sure would never allow some white Democrat or some white liberal to stand in front of them and then tell them what they can't do. Then all of a sudden it's like, well, you know, we can do that. Even if they try to hide it and conceal it behind, well, I told them there was conditions, though. What they wouldn't be saying is, man, we can't do that. Man, we can't do that. No, as soon as you got somebody from the dominant society who shows up, all of a sudden these same down-in-the-mouth defeatist Negroes who tell you and me what can't be done, what black folks can't do, all of a sudden anything becomes possible. So the problem isn't a lack of numbers. And when it comes to getting things done at the local level, right there on the street that you live, the issue isn't necessarily one of resources either. The problem is, some time ago we started giving ourselves permission to give up, and we started trying to find some way to make it where it wasn't our fault. And I'm telling you, that ain't good enough. But you didn't need to wait until the Aryan propagandist or anyone else came along to tell you what we've been telling each other for the longest time. Yes, there's more of us than they are willing to admit to. And the fact that they're scared, and they've made it very clear that this happens to be a program at work, we're going to be undercounting these Negroes. They think to themselves that hopefully we will believe that if our numbers are lower, somehow that means our power is lower too. And let me tell you something. Even if they actually were accurate about the numbers, which of course we know that they are not, the truth of the matter is our strength is not reliant purely upon our numbers. It is, however, reliant upon our cohesion. Why is it that the black grassroots have had a disproportionate impact on the political discourse, not only within the community, but also in the country? It's because we have been united. We have spoken as one voice. The enemy knows this, and they live in mortal fear of the day when a critical mass of us realize this as well. After everything the enemy has done to try to cull our numbers and to reduce our numbers, the medical genocide that's been going on and every other means that they've been using to shorten black people's lifespans, if not cut them short altogether just to have us killed, period. Everything they've been doing all these decades, and for some dang reason, these Negroes just refuse to lay down and die. They just refuse to be snuffed out. They just refuse to disappear. Yeah. The guilt-free genocide that they've been using, slowly strangling us for resources, slowly strangling us for all the necessities that human beings need merely to survive and exist, hasn't been going as smoothly as they thought. For some strange reason, we just won't go away. And the fact that you see an article like this from the Aryan propagandist, no less, what that means is this article is here as a means of explaining to white society, yeah, there's been more Negroes in your area. Yeah, we know we've been telling you that the numbers of black people percentage-wise in the U.S. are just dropping. Why? These Negroes are disappearing? Yeah, but it's not been your imagination. There's more black folks in your city. You ain't just dreaming it. So what that means, of course, is the numbers are far greater than the white media is willing to say. And this is also a means of them trying to explain away how all these changes are happening despite all of the reporting they've been doing that black folks' numbers have just been in decline and black folks are just getting smaller and smaller and more irrelevant. Now the propaganda arm of white supremacy, the voice box for the enemy, is slowly having to come to terms and having to slowly admit to the very thing that they have been denying all along for so many years. They're having to tiptoe their way to the truth, but they're also tiptoeing their way around what the major implications for this happen to be. This is not about encouraging us, not a matter of, oh, we got our enemies who are admitting that there's more of us than they were admitting to. That's not the point. The point is we should never be bashful about it to begin with. We should have enough common sense and self-respect not to be sitting around waiting until the propaganda arm of white supremacy tells us or confirms for us what we've been saying all along. We are far stronger than our enemies are willing to admit to. So now that the anxiety-prone among us can rest a little easier now, knowing that no, it's not true at all, black people are not evaporating off the face of the United States, now that we know that black people are not vanishing, hopefully now we can all start focusing on the other important political reality that goes along with population numbers. It's not the quantity of our numbers that's important. It's the quality. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors. Lo Have Mercy, Brian Ntukogu, Philander Bryant, Troyce Donnelly, and Wendell. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.